What if I told you that the law of attraction may actually hold us back from allowing in more? What if it's not about attracting anything? What if the magic is in receiving? My dear teacher, Rabbi David Aaron, was the first to help me understand that the universe works through the law of reception, based on the word Kabbalah, which means to receive. The idea is that everything we need and most desire in life is already here. You don't have to attract it, you just have to receive it. You have to allow it in. There's nothing at a far distance from us and nothing we need to force to have. Right here in this moment, all potentials already exist, and the question is, how much do you allow yourself to receive? When first explaining this concept to me, he used the radio as a metaphor, and I love it so much. As a latchkey kid in the 80s and 90s, I had my Sony boombox to keep me entertained. It was one of those old school boomboxes with the rabbit ears, and depending on the day, I would manipulate those rabbit ears and tune it to pop, oldies, sometimes a rock station. A variety of music was at my fingertips, and it was up to me to tune the station of my choosing and receive it. Here's my way of understanding the metaphor. The whole journey here is about being a receiver. If I have a radio sitting next to me and I turn it on, I'll hear music. If the radio is off, I won't hear anything. So I turn it on. But then once I turn it on, depending on what the radio is tuned to, I might hear a salsa song. If I tune it another way, I might hear hip hop or classical music. So what's in control of the broadcast? It's whatever the receiver is picking up. When we look at it this way, we realize that all potentials exist in the quantum field. All realities exist in this moment, and the one you're in is the one you're attuned to. The experience of your life is a mirror of the radio station you've chosen. You just don't necessarily know that. But once you understand that you are in control of the music you want to broadcast and receive, you realize, wow, that's unbelievable. That is so empowering. I can choose a different station. Did you get that? All the music is already here. You simply have to tune into a certain frequency to receive a different type of song. This is how abundance works.
Hmm. You are so good.
So sweet.
I fucking love you. I chills. It's all about receiving. What? Yeah. I'll let you go because you give Cathy Heller a microphone and she will take it. Just this dynamic of like, you and I have been in the wellness, spiritual development, personal development space of like, I gotta go, I gotta get it versus I just need to like sit back and receive. Why'd you write this book? Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that the mind, the amygdala of the brain actually has no answers. And because it's designed to protect us, all it does is lie to us all day long about these illusions of scarcity and lack. But all the answers are actually not in the brain. They're in the soul. They're in the heart. In fact, we recently did an fMRI on a monk's brain and saw that there's no brain activity because all the wisdom comes from inside. It's intuition. So when we get beyond that spinning mind, we actually start accessing our spiritual power, right? Our consciousness. We start becoming more awake. Our right hemisphere sort of turns on, which is creativity. And the right part of the brain really operates through color and music lyrics and poetry and is very comfortable in the unknown, which is where all possibility exists. The left hemisphere, which is in the amygdala, is so afraid that it wants certainty all the time, which robs us of actually being in the quantum field. So when people tell me they want abundance, they usually tell me they want $5 million or a Range Rover. And I often say, I believe you have way bigger dreams than that. Like, I believe you don't want a bunch of money. What you want is a mystical experience. What you want is flow state. What you want is to feel synchronicity. Right? Wouldn't you rather like have a life that feels so incredibly significant and meaningful and potent and lovable and loving and magical? Or do you just want a pile of things? But what the mind does is the amygdala tells you that everything is separate from you. And in order for you to access more of your greatness, you need more around you, outside of you. It externalizes your power. But the law of reception, what I was just talking about in Judaism, we're talking about the oneness of God, right? That there's not just one God, but God is one, which means there's nowhere God isn't. And my rabbi says, you are no body, you're not a body, you're a soul. So you're no body, but you're someone, some of the one. And so what you're really looking to access is the oneness within yourself, the part of you that's connected to the divine, the part of you that is eternal, the part of you that really is frequency itself, which we are, right? Ram Dass said that we're all walking around with like a somebody suit, but the truth is that we can even measure our vibration is more like a beach ball, and it goes out like 7 feet in all directions. And because the world is made of atoms, 99% of an atom is a vibration, it's a frequency. So we're in a vibrational world and we are energetic. That is what we are. And so the thing we're really looking for is to turn on our energy, to turn up our life force. That is when we feel most abundant. And the really cool thing about the way the world works, since the world is made of atoms, which are energetic, when our energy is coherent and powerful and potent, and we are coming from this loving, open-hearted, abundant, grateful, delicious sort of life force. First of all, the most impressive person in the room has the best energy, but it really is impressive in the field because these atoms, sort of like kinetic sand, or when my daughters play with slime, when your energy is focused and coherent and it's coming from such a high vibe, like boiling water can turn hard pasta into something you can eat that's soft. You can literally bend the three-dimensional reality because it's made of vibration. So when you want to create abundance in your life in any way, if you're tuned to love inside of yourself, everywhere you go, you will perceive love and people will find you loving, and then love will come out of them, right? And so all the opportunities of love will be reflected to the love that you have within yourself. If you're tuned to lack, then your radio, so to speak, is set to static, and then everything all day long feels like static. So you are literally thinking that you're observing a reality, but really you're creating a reality. And the reality you're creating is coming from how much abundance you've generated inside the source of all abundance, which is energy. And it's the energy inside of you. So that is why I love that metaphor. That's why I wrote this book, because we need to click our heels like Dorothy and realize that there is no place like home. Like inside the home in yourself, that's where the mystic lives. That's where the wizard is. It's not outside of you. And because God is infinite and then literally pours through each one of us, it's like our body is the light bulb, our soul is the light. So when we turn on the light inside of ourselves, we become a blessing to ourselves. We become a blessing to other people. We literally biologically get an upgrade because instead of dripping cortisol, we start dripping serotonin. And all things become possible and all things feel magical. But when we're in the amygdala all day long, we have cortisol, we have stress, it creates inflammation, it creates disease, and we feel very separate from the oneness of the world. We feel very separate from our spiritual power, and we feel very disempowered. And then it appears as though in order for us to finally feel whole, we would need something external to happen, somebody's validation, some amount of money, some big house in order to feel bigger on the inside, when really what we want is to feel expansive on the inside. And that expansion on the inside creates the expansion on the material level.
Okay, Cathy, I'm sitting here. You're such a channel.
Thank you. And so are you. That's why you can perceive that.
And I was just waiting for you to say thank you. Look at you being a good receiver. How do someone's listening and they're like, yes, yes, yes. And how do I turn that light on within me? Like I wrote down connection. Soul is the light. If you've been living from the neck up, right? How do you get in to yourself?
So first of all, let's talk about meditation as a very simple practice, because people make it really complex, but I think it's really a helpful tool, which is why so many successful people have a meditation practice. First of all, you can get a benefit of meditation from 90 seconds. Sure, you can get a better benefit from 30 minutes, but why don't we start small? So let's say you have 90 seconds. Let's first understand what could be helpful every morning, the way you brush your teeth. You then take 90 seconds and meditate. Why and how and what would you do? Well, first of all, when I first started meditating, I didn't have any real understanding of what was happening in my mind. And so everything I thought, I believed, and it really would create what it wanted, which was a reaction. And I would be very stressed out, okay, and anxious. And I came to understand that when you meditate, the idea is not for you to stop thinking, because your mind will never stop. Your heart will never stop beating. Hearts beat, minds race. The idea is for you not to stop thinking, but to witness your thinking. And that is a very awesome difference, because you will make yourself crazy if you think you're supposed to stop thinking. But if instead you think you're supposed to be witnessing your thought, all of a sudden you can do that. And then the really cool part is you realize, oh, I am the aspect of me that is witnessing the mind. So you can play a game with yourself and say to your mind, I wonder what your next thought's going to be. And then you realize you are the witness consciousness. The mind, it's interesting because when you look at the ocean, you see sort of waves. And most people, when they describe the ocean, if they were to play some game giving words to describe the ocean on Family Feud, they would say waves. But if you've actually been in the ocean and you go out into the ocean and you go down in the ocean, let's say you go down 10 feet, it's very still. It doesn't move. You can go down 20 feet. You can scuba dive. You can go down 60 feet. And then in parts of the ocean, you could go down a mile or more. And as you do, it's so heavy and so still, it looks like glass. So the ocean is a lot like us. The mind is a lot like the waves, but the mind is the most superficial aspect of the ocean. The ocean itself is so vast, and 99.9% of the ocean is this still, deep, heavy, expansive body of water that doesn't move. So if you were to describe yourself based upon your mind, you're missing the big aspect of who you really are, which is the peaceful well-being that lies within. So just kind of knowing that is helpful, because then you can try to orient yourself and say, well, am I caught right now in the blizzard of my mind, or am I actually making contact with the insight and intuition and the essence of really where the equanimity lives in me? And so to begin, first of all, have that awareness. Also, Martha Beck said to me that if you were in a snowstorm, it's quite uncomfortable. But if you're sitting on Christmas morning looking at a snowstorm through a window, it's beautiful. So instead of being caught in the mind, you can just look at it and have a lot of grace and compassion. Like, just like the waves just constantly react to the weather. Mm-hmm. It's just a reactive sort of reactivity. It doesn't really need to mean anything. Your mind is constantly reacting and thinking that there's going to be some big fire to put out or a tiger in the living room. And it's just what the mind does. And then when you distance yourself from it, you start to find that there is something else you can orient to. So I say to people in the morning, what if you spent 90 seconds and you closed your eyes and you said to yourself, the same way I selected what I want to wear today, I want to select, how do I want to feel today? What would surrender feel like in my body? What would ease feel like? What would joy feel like? What would love feel like? What would peace feel like? And pick something that you want to feel. And instead of waiting for something to happen to make you feel that way, you can choose to feel what you want to feel right now. And then the whole day is different.
I'm thinking about this addiction to feeling broke, or this addiction to lack, the opposite of abundance, and how people have desires. You know, they'll write it down. They know what they want. You hear this all the time. They know what they say they want, but it's, instead of going through, they're going around. And it's like, I got to find all these things I need to fix about myself, fix about others before I can feel that feeling. On a bigger scale, what do you think that actually is? Because on the outside, it looks very successful. And on the inside, they're like, this is not aligned success. That is not abundance. That is not the embodiment.
I think that we live in a culture that we believe that we have to like prove our existence. And the harder we work, the more gold stars we get. The truth of the matter, though, is that, and I say this and it's very controversial, and that's why I love saying it, life is not meant to be hard. In fact, everything really, really amazing.
Amen.
Yeah. Everything really amazing. If you're listening to this right now, you can think about this. Everything really amazing that's ever happened in your life happened through synchronicity. How you met your best friend, you didn't put pen to paper and try to figure that out. You just were at the right place in the right time. And we're always in the right place at the right time. And the question is, how available are we? When we're coming from a place of thinking everything's hard and we're disappointed and everything's far away, we just keep pushing it further away. I'm going to tell you a story that illustrates this well. It just happened this summer. My dad passed away in July, and we went through hospice, which was so sad and so beautiful. And it's really heart opening, and your heart just melts with love. It's just an incredible, painful, beautiful experience. And then we went through the funeral. And then a couple weeks later, my kids had really spent their summer, not really doing much other than experiencing this death journey. And it was time to do something with the kids. And they wanted to go see the Despicable Me, the new one, whatever. And so I said, okay, let's go. And I was feeling really shaky going back out in the world a few weeks later. But it was the first time, and it was time to have re-entry into normal, quote unquote, normal life. And we go to this restaurant, and I decided, you know what? Let's turn the magic back on. Like, let's find magic. So right away, I'm listening to the people sitting right next to us at the table next to us. And I say to my kids and my husband, I'm like, I think they're on a first date. I'm going to buy them dessert. So I stand up and I say to the woman, are you guys on a first date? And she said, yeah. And I said, can I buy you dessert? And she said, oh my God, sure, fine. So she gets my number. She's like, I want to say thank you. Let's exchange phone numbers. So we do, and we leave. And she texts me a couple hours later. She says, that was so nice of you. It was delicious. So I say to her, are you guys going to go on a second date? And she said, I'm not sure, but he's really nice. And she said, but I need to tell you something. She said, I'm a widow. And she said, this is my first date in 5 years. And the fact that you did that, she said, it made me feel that my husband was giving me a green light and telling me that it was safe to fall in love again. And I started to cry. And I thought, isn't it amazing that at any moment, like 3 inches away from you, is an opportunity to change someone's whole day.
Yeah.
Maybe even their life. What a gift is always waiting in escrow for us. And in that moment, I thought, there is no amount of money that you could give me that would feel as good as it felt to that synchronicity. And then I said to her, I said, you just really touched me so much. I said, my dad died on July 3rd, and I felt kind of overwhelmed, kind of going out tonight. And I don't know what made me do that, but I just decided to sort of give away some love for no reason. And then you sent me this text, and she said, wow, July 3rd. She said, that's the day my husband passed 5 years ago. And I'm telling you that as much as we get so mad that we think we can't figure it out, those kinds of moments, which we've all had, those synchronicities, are the best moments. And what I said before is it's not meant to be hard. It's meant to all come through synchronicity. Mm. The synchronicity is everywhere, every day, always available when you are available for it. Mm. So if I would have sat at that dinner and been stuck in all the right feelings, which I had every right to feel, I would have missed out. But when you open your heart, you just won't believe how good it gets to be.
I feel like you had to make a choice. Like, we say the same things with different language. It's a universal oneness.
Yes, it's a universal language.
And as you're telling the story, I'm like, number one, do your hard, choose your hard, drives me nuts. I'm like, I don't believe in hard things. I believe everything is emotionally uncomfortable. You had to choose. Like, I can feel this resistance. I can feel the energy or whatever it is moving through you of like, I have to go back out into the world and I need to make a choice to do that. It's not like, oh, I'm ready. I have to make a choice. And you chose.
Yeah.
Choose to receive, choose to receive, choose to receive. Okay. I want to go to that moment when you were like, I am going to turn the magic on. And I know, because I know you, that you probably were like, boop, I'm actually turning the magic on. But for someone that's listening to this, they're like, what does that mean? I'm not used to this. How can I turn the magic on? How can I just be sitting there in my misery, feeling like naked and afraid and very vulnerable to be out in the world? How can I choose to receive? How can I choose to find the magic?
I think, first of all, it's a beautiful question. I think that we all think we want to be successful, but we actually want to be significant.
Repeat.
We can be significant all the time. And so my kids know that I'm always looking for little opportunities to practice unconditional love for no reason, just like give it away. It's such a fun, abundant feeling. And my grandmother used to do that. And she kind of raised me. So we would go to the grocery store and she would say to the checkout clerk, have you had a hug today? Has anyone hugged you? And the woman would like look at her like she's crazy. And then my grandmother would be like, okay, I'm not going to take no for an answer. And then she would hug the person. And the person would always be so taken aback. Like no one does that. And then they'd always give her some abundance. Like, you know what? Take this on the house or come back next time or, and her life just was paved with so much of that because she went first. She gave it away first. And she wasn't even doing it for that reason. She would take in stray dogs and, she would just every moment of the day. I say to people, you think you're meant to change the world and then you feel inefficient that you can't do it. But what if you're meant to change the world for one person every day? What if that person's you? Right? And you think about like, my sister has wanted to get married since she was like 25 and she's still not married. And we talk about it a lot and she's very honest about, sort of what's going on with her. And I say to her, look, if you go on a date and you really, really, really want to be chosen and you want to be liked, it's just not a good vibe. But if you are Zooey Deschanel and the way she kind of, all her characters, she's always like having her own party. She's always like happy with herself. Yeah. Then every guy wants to be around her. Right. And so what you're looking for is not outside of you. It's knowing that even at the DMV, you could project your great energy in the room and you're the recipient of it first. And then you become pretty significant. You actually realize, oh my God, it's actually easy to be significant because people are pretty miserable. I went to get my car serviced. This was like a week ago. And I go in and they have this awesome coffee machine, which I get to like play with all like the vanilla latte, this one, that one. It's so much fun. And there was a woman sitting next to me and she was almost in tears. And I said, are you okay? And she said, I'm so pissed off. I can't even speak. I'm so mad. I said, what happened? She said, they told me the part was ready and I was going to come for an hour and I have to get to work. And now they're telling me it's going to be 8 hours. They have to get it and this and that. And I said to her, listen, I said, there's that coffee machine over there. And I said, and I know you're frustrated, but she goes, I have to get to work. I said, have you ever thought that maybe you're being asked to take a day off right now? Do you need a day off? And she's like, oh my God, what are you saying? I'm like, well, do you have a phone? Can you listen to podcasts? Do you have a book with you? I said, what if this is actually a gift because you're being given, there's nothing you can do. You're not in control and you have to tell your boss. She goes, actually, I'm the boss. I go, great. You're being asked to take a day off. And she just started crying. She goes, I really need to take a day off. My children are always telling me that. She starts crying. I go, this is it. You're being forced to. And she literally was sobbing. She said, can I give you a hug? And she was sobbing. I said, see how much the universe knows you need a day off. You can't escape it. And so that was amazing, like to get to have that moment, and then I go to get my keys from the service guy. And I go to thank him. So I look at his tag and his name was Angel. I go, of course his name is Angel. I said to the woman, of course his name is Angel. Like he works here and he just gave you the day off. Like the world really is made of magic. We just are constantly working so hard trying to push the river that we don't realize that where you are right now in this moment is the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And there is always a beckoning for you to realize your magic, realize your power, and find the wholeness. Because if you can't find the wholeness when your car is getting serviced, you think you're going to find it because you're on the beach at the Ritz-Carlton? Yeah. No, because it starts with you. You'll pick a fight with your sister-in-law at the beach at the Ritz-Carlton. You'll find another reason. It's always in your ability to find your own equanimity. And it's not to say that I don't get bounced into like pain and fear and all, of course, but then it's easier for me to find the wisdom in the contrast, right? And to lean into it, right? And also to balance it with all that really is, which is the human experience. At any given time, there's usually 19 things happening. And many of them are amazing. And some of them are hard. And the hard is actually an invitation, right? For you to rise. And all of it together is the full spectrum of like being a person.
Find the magic. I really I mean, I'm taking away from this conversation is the permission, again, the reminder, life is meant to be easy. When you have that as your North Star, that is the abundant ever after, where you are like, the goal is ease. Okay, quickly before we dive into this, can you define ease and easy, the difference? Because people are like, oh, that's hard. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to avoid it. Like leaning in versus like ease versus easy.
Yeah, I think Jon Kabat-Zinn has a great way of saying this. He says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Yeah.
And so life will come with waves. And so it's not about avoiding them, but it's like, okay, this is what's going on here. What's the assignment in this?
Yeah.
How, instead of resisting it, right? How can I actually become who I am because of it?
Mm.
That's the ease.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself writing this book, like during the writing process?
What a great question. I don't know if anyone's asked me that. So much, because I got this second book deal in like 2021. And when it first came out, and I'm happy to dive into this because it's, I think, really, really juicy. And I want to dismantle some old beliefs that women have. The first idea of the book was going to be giving women permission to be rich AF. And I want to talk about it. And some of that really is in the book. And as the book evolved, I realized that I really wanted to speak about Jewish mysticism and mindfulness, because those have been the two main tracks that have helped me to find so much peace and joy and fulfillment. And so it really started to become a much more spiritual quest. And that was really interesting to help myself. When you say, how did it help you grow? Like, I started realizing that I was playing small by not being completely and totally authentic in my woo-ness. And I'm like, oh no, this is so real to me. This is way more real than math and science. So I'm going to, although so much of it is scientific, I was like, I'm going to go all in. And so that was such a beautiful rite of passage to give myself the permission to fully unleash all the spiritual wisdom that I have found in the world. Mm-hmm. And what I do want to say about women and being rich, because I just think it's interesting, very interesting, is that by and large, the women that I meet, almost everybody has the same issue, which is they feel it's audacious to ask for full reciprocity in their life. And there is some shame and some sabotage around fully receiving. So we won't actually allow it to happen. Mm-hmm. So the ease is we actually stop it from happening. Somebody goes to give you a compliment. I mean, you said it earlier, like, good for you. You said, thank you. Most of the time, somebody goes to buy you dinner, even your best friend, you're like, no, don't be silly. Like, you won't receive it. Somebody tells you that you're smart. You're like, are you kidding? No, you won't receive it. Right? We think about maybe charging more. We're like, oh my God, what will people think? You won't even put it out there. It won't even be an option. You will deny yourself over and over and over and over and over again. And I see this so much in women. And I know that men have this too, but by and large, less than women have this. And I think it's because boys on some level are raised to be as bold as they can and to be in providership. And they are given praise for being in that confidence and leading. And women, subconsciously or consciously, are being given the message that it is their job to be hyper vigilant and make sure everyone else is okay, and make sure they're not too much, and make sure that they don't trigger anybody. Nobody feels threatened by them. When really, when we stand in our full disco ball energy, we create possibility for other women to do that. And when it comes to money specifically, men tend to be very direct. Like, what does it cost? This is the price. Are you in or not? I'm not in. Fine, let's go play golf. Like, they just kind of move on. Women, because we're codependent and we think it's our job to own people's responses, we feel like whatever we say about the price, let's say, is going to be ours to own how somebody feels about that. Mm-hmm. When really it's just, this is the market value, or this is what I want to make in the world. Or I say to women, would you be comfortable declaring that you want to be the healthiest version of yourself in 2025? Like, I want to be healthy AF. And women are like, yeah. I'm like, great. What would you post? Like, I would post that I'm doing Pilates. I would post that I'm drinking green juice. I'm like, yeah, because you become a possibility for other women to be inspired by that. Now, would you post, I want to be wealthy AF. This is my wealthiest year. And half the women say yes, and half the women say no way. And I say, why? Like, people would judge me. Now, why would they judge you? Because if you're in scarcity consciousness and somebody else is declaring that they're going to now receive abundance, they're going to be triggered and say, how dare she give herself permission when I wouldn't do that for myself? Or I don't believe it's possible for me. How dare she believe it's possible for her? Yeah. So you really want to meet someone in that place? It's because you're still holding on to that, when really it is the opposite. Because, and this is the last thing I'll say, but I think it's really interesting, abundance creates abundance. And so if I paint my house, immediately my neighbor's house just went up in value. If I open a store on Main Street, I just gave opportunities to other people who should now open stores on Main Street, because they even say if you have one coffee shop and another coffee shop opens, they both do better because they're across the street from each other. That's why gas stations open up across from each other. Abundance creates abundance. There's a teaching by a 17th century rabbi, the Maharal is his name. And he said, if you took a candle, you could light an unlimited amount of candles and the flame will never diminish. Because literally it just keeps igniting more. Abundance creates more. If I plant a cherry tree, I just gave birth to the possibility of 1,000 other cherry trees from those seeds. So when we hold ourselves back, we are forgetting that there is one geometric pattern, one ecosystem. And when something in the garden thrives, it gives pollination to the whole garden. And we need to fully understand that. Because at the end of the day, if you're feeling that it's hard and you're in lack, there is probably, most certainly, a belief you have that you're not allowed to even receive it, which is why you will just keep sabotaging it, because it doesn't feel safe to even have it.
Yeah. Oh, Cathy, you're a flame.
So are you. I loved you from the second I met you.
Thank you. I'm like, don't deflect, Heather. Thank you. Thank you. Cathy, where can people get the book? What do you got going on? All of you, because just being in your ecosystem, your energy transmutes whoever gets a piece of you.
That's so kind. I highly recommend getting the book. You can go to cathyheller.com/book, and then it will take you to everywhere books are sold. But it will also give you, of course, we made bonuses, which are meditations that are guided from me, and also a 2-hour course on how to manifest and meditate easily. And you get that because you bought the book. So go to cathyheller.com/book and buy the book, and then let me know what you think of it. Leave a review or DM me on Instagram and tell me. I hope that the book makes you come home to yourself and feel like, oh, I can just plug in this waffle iron that was already here, and now the electricity is coming through it. All I had to do was plug it in.
And it feels like a book that you can gift to other people, but it's also that type that you're going to go back again. Like it's like your yearly reader.
Yeah.
Like you come back, read it again and again and again and again. And this is during the holiday season or gifting to friends. Cathy, thank you for being you. You also have a podcast of the same name.
Same name, same kind of topics, diving in week after week. And Heather's been on it. Heather needs to come back on it.
Yay, I will. I love you.
I love you.